very interesting topic that he wants to share, that he's passionate and wants to share with all of us. He's originally born in Lebanon, and then since he was young, he moved around in different countries. He has been living in more than 5 countries, and recently, I think the most remarkable achievement is he was the CFO at Louis Vuitton, and during his journey, during his life journey, he has collected a lot of experience, and he wants to share this experience with us today. So I'm very much appreciate. I'm very honored to have him here today. It took roughly 3 months to prepare this presentation. I hope you enjoy it. Please take a lot of notes. Don't be shy. If you have anything that you want to ask, put it in the chat or raise your hand at the end. And yeah, so Lauren, please go ahead. You have to unmute yourself, Lauren. Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Nils. Thank you for the introduction. I would like to say good morning from my end at least, and could be good night or good evening from your end. We have 165 perhaps participants that have signed up with 62 countries. So it's very interesting how everyone is sharing on the chat all the countries that they are coming from. I am still admitting people as we speak into this presentation. So if I don't admit them into the Zoom meeting, they won't be able to join because I am the only host here. But seems that we are already set to go. I would like to first really congratulate everyone for making the effort, taking the energy to show up, whether it's morning or it's nighttime from your end. But it's more important about congratulate you for your curiosity for you to learn more about how to overcome your fear and overcome procrastination by becoming a better version of yourself. My intention is to show up to your expectation and beyond. So we will see as we progress. This session will be interactive. I will be asking a lot of questions via poll. Also, if someone wants, as similar to what Nils mentioned earlier, if someone wants to say something, make a comment or make a contribution in the webinar, please raise your hand, leave a message on the chat. Nils will be collecting it and will be coordinating that information. Highly recommended also if you could take some notes. There's a lot of small tools and nuggets that I'm going to be sharing. So that would be a perfect time for you to go grab a paper and pen or notepad if you want to take some notes or anything like that. And it's going to be kind of a workshop style, because I'm going to be asking a question for you to ponder about something, to think about something. And it will be great to have your interaction so you can actually test the theory and the model that I have created. So without further ado, I'm going to be starting the session right now. First of all, we're talking about procrastination, and I wanted to share with you my experience with procrastination. So I had 14 days to actually deliver this webinar from the creation, from the time we have agreed until creation. And I thought to myself, perhaps every day I could, put in 2.5 hours. And eventually, by the time I get to the last day, I will be able to deliver the webinar without any pressure, without any time pressure or anything like that. Now, that was the forecast, or that was the intention at least. Whereas the reality is that I end up cramming everything in the last 3 days. I'm half joking, but there was a bit of reality in that. So no one is actually invincible from procrastination, and that is for sure. So I will start by asking the first question here, if I may get your participation, just to kind of set the scene and get us started. So the first question is going to be, the first poll that I'm going to be running is about choice. So the question here, how much do you feel that you are able to choose your life? How much do you feel that you are able to choose your life? 1 is the lowest, obviously. So that means that life is controlled by external factors. and everything outside of you has control over your life. And 10, which is the highest, you have control over everything in your life. So you are able to choose everything that you want, your state of mind, everything basically. So if I can get you to participate, please, the more you participate, the more we're going to be able to share your feeling, your results as to this topic. And I think it will be quite powerful for all of us to collaborate during this session. So I will give you a few more seconds. I have only half of the participants voting in this poll. So if I can get everyone to actually jump in and vote. So now we are having a peak. Appreciate your participation. I'll give you a few more seconds and I will end the poll at 1 minute. So I will end the poll now and I will share the results. So it's a fantastic circle that we have here. Seems like the majority are choosing their life more so than getting life or getting outside circumstances to choose the path of their life. So it's a fantastic circle to have and to work with actually. So I will move on from here. So what do we know about procrastination? What are the facts out there about procrastination? Ladies and gentlemen, you would be highly surprised how much there are research centers and faculties out there that are strictly specialized in studying and breaking down procrastination. So a study that was done on a number of participants back in 1978, the year I was born, by the way, they have shown that the same number of participants, not the same participant, but the same number of participants, they have done the test on them in 2019, and they have discovered that procrastination has grown by 6 times. This means 600%. So you have chronic procrastinator and the procrastinator that are casual, so to speak. What is a chronic procrastinator? A chronic procrastinator, is a procrastinator that actually procrastinates about everything and anything. Simple things like going and brushing your teeth or drinking water. They get to procrastinate on that. So that's a chronic procrastinator. Whereas the orange or the procrastinator at times are the ones that are casually procrastinating. So 600 times the procrastination since 1978 until now has grown. 1 out of 5 people, they procrastinate so badly that it can affect their career, their finances, their relationship, even their health. So talking about finances, 40% of the procrastinator research have shown that they suffer financial loss because of their procrastination. It could be an opportunity that they miss out on or anything that could be related to their procrastination. In fact, a study that was done on 2,700 respondents, they found out that 46 of these 2,700 respondents, they actually procrastinate very much, quite a bit. Whereas 18% of this 2,700 respondents, they extremely procrastinate, meaning they could be chronic procrastinators. It affects their life quite a bit. So all in all, what are we learning here is that procrastination really affects your physical health as well as your mental health. So it's a serious problem. In fact, could be classified as somewhat a disease, not a pandemic. It's a pandemic of the mind that actually it's taken quite seriously all over the world. So the next question that I want to ask you here, ladies and gentlemen, throughout this presentation, it's very interesting if you could think about a desire, a goal, something that you want to achieve, and you have been procrastinating on actually going ahead and achieving or attaining that desire. Maybe something that you want to let go of, something that doesn't serve you anymore. Because it's not only about going out there and getting something, it's about letting go of something. Could be a relationship, could be a job, could be a space or place that you live in. So think about something that you have been constantly procrastinating about, a goal, a desire, or anything like that. So now I want to take you through the logic behind procrastination based on the research that was done. Ladies and gentlemen, research have shown that most cases of procrastination, the majority of procrastination, if not all, are based on emotion. There is a negative emotion behind that task, behind that desire, behind that goal that you want to attain or achieve or complete. So if we use that hypothesis, you have a task, goal, or desire that you want to achieve. And if you have a negative emotion attributed to that task, goal, or desire that you're trying to achieve, if you don't have a negative emotion, let's say, you would go ahead and take the action, and eventually you will get the reward. We're talking about your mind, how does it act? Your subconscious mind, how does it act? So if there's no negative emotion, you would go ahead and achieve the action, and you will get the reward in terms of how your mind will reward you that, okay, job is done. I've done the tick in the box. We've done the work. But if you have a negative emotion attributed to this task, ladies and gentlemen, your brain, your subconscious mind is going to be detecting a threat or potential pain. Here we're talking a signal from the limbic system to the amygdala. And this is how, when the amygdala or the limbic system or the subconscious mind detect a threat or a pain, you would step away from this task and you do something else, or you do nothing. And that's how you procrastinate. When you procrastinate, this is when you get a positive relief because you are no longer experiencing that potential threat. When you get that positive relief, your brain gives you a reward. So now we have a cycle where if you have a task and there is a negative emotion behind that task, automatically you detect a threat. When you detect a threat, you end up procrastinating, and eventually from procrastinating, you get a reward. By doing this cycle several times, your brain eventually forms a habit. And that's how individuals form the habit of procrastination. And that's how connections in your brain says that next time I'm going to be coming near that desire, I'm not going to end up doing that. I'm going to end up procrastinating, and I get a reward after that. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today is ways and tools to hack into your brain. Because today you're getting that negative emotion. We need to offset that negative emotion with something else. You're getting a procrastination and relief. We need to offset this procrastination and relief or reward with something perhaps negative. So the negative, we're going to introduce a positive. The positive, we're going to introduce a negative. And that's the essence of what I'm going to be achieving with you today. So moving on, I'm going to be starting to share with you the model that I have created to overcome fear and procrastination. This model starts obviously with you at stasis, in your comfortable place, where you are not actually moving forward. But when you decide to start moving forward, the further you go down the journey, the more you're going to be going within yourself into your inner world to understand and unpack what is behind that procrastination, that task. What is behind that negative emotion that I am feeling that I'm not even aware of it? So this is not a circle. This is a spiral up, because the more you progress along this model, the more you're going to be moving up in terms of growth in your life, developing yourself, becoming a better version of yourself. And that's the whole point. So the first step is to clarify. With the notion of clarifying, I want to talk about how this symptom of being stuck in stasis happen. So this is actually based on a webinar that I have done before. If you want to use your phone camera and scan the barcode, it will take you to that webinar for future reference, obviously. So you are all based in your comfortable place. This is a space where you are operating in a status quo. You are in charge of what is happening around you. There is no reason or concern for you to get alarmed or be kind of uncomfortable. And then you get a desire. And this desire, we spoke about it earlier, and I've asked you to think about one actually. That desire to achieve something, to go beyond yourself, to change your life, to let go of something that doesn't serve you perhaps. Now, here's the catch. The more there is risk associated with this desire, the higher is the competitive interest that you would lose if you go ahead and achieve that desire, the more you'll be confronted by fear. And if the stakes are high, as I mentioned, a lot of people, in most cases, default back to their comfortable place. And that, ladies and gentlemen, becomes a vicious circle where people get to spend months, years, perhaps a lifetime. I spent years many times in my life, and I'll be sharing my experience further in this cycle. So once you are stuck in this cycle, you will be eventually experiencing some mental health challenges in the form of anxiety, depression, could be panic, frustration, discomfort. I ticked all the above boxes in my case. So continuing with the notion of clarifying, the first step in clarifying on the model of overcoming your procrastination and fear is to name your fear. You want to name your fear, because the enemy, I always say that the enemy that you know is easier to find than the enemy that you don't know. So what is the fear that you are dealing with? What is the fear that you are dealing with, ladies and gentlemen? If you feel that you don't succeed in that task or desire that you just thought about earlier, think about it for a second. Imagine that you don't succeed in that task or desire that you have thought about it earlier. What would be the fear that you will be experiencing? And a very important question, where did that show up? Where else did that show up in your life? Because we spoke earlier that behind every task, there is negative emotion. Behind negative emotion, now we're telling you that there is a fear. You want to identify that fear. And when you identify the fear, you ask yourself, where else did this show up? Because there was a chain behind that fear. There was a story behind that fear. This fear started somewhere in your life. Somewhere, something happened to you that has initiated that fear. And the next step is to identify that voice in your head. So when you experience that fear, you have that inner negative voice. We all have that voice, that inner negative voice that tells you you're not good enough. What makes you think that you're gonna succeed where everyone else have tried and they failed? You know, you better stay in your comfortable place. It's too much risk to take. That inner negative voice. And your job is to identify, isolate, and personify that voice. Because if you don't personify it, if you don't isolate it, that voice and you will become one entity. You will identify yourself as this voice. And now I will talk about how does that happen? How does that happen? So in terms of the next step in the cycle is to break the pattern, So with breaking the pattern, we spoke earlier about the voice and the inner negative voice. And for you to identify that voice, research was done by Dr. Alan Watkins, a neuroscientist. It simply showed that emotion is energy in motion. Emotion is a set of electrical signals that happen in your limbic system, in your subconscious mind. And the feeling is the awareness of this emotion. So there is a differentiation between emotion and feeling. Emotion is part of your subconscious, is you going on auto mode, whereas the feeling is the awareness of this emotion. So if we use this hypothesis that emotion is energy in motion and the awareness of this emotion makes it a feeling, but if you're not aware of this emotion, then you are having a subjective experience. Now, what do I mean by subjective experience? It means that you and this emotion is one, as I mentioned earlier. It means that if you have an emotion that says, I am weak, I am vulnerable, I am helpless, to you, this is your definition. This is who you are. You have no differentiation that it's just a state of mind that you are experiencing. It's a feeling that you are experiencing, and it may change. So if this is the case, people, you get to put the blame of whatever emotion you are experiencing on external factors. And that's how you eventually end up experiencing the victim mode or victimship, so to speak. That's how people are going into that victim mode. So the research have shown that there is an average 12 emotion that all of you experience on average on daily basis. 12 emotion that on average every individual experience on daily basis. However, this research have also demonstrated that there is a myriad, a massive spectrum of emotions that people get to actually reach and experience beyond this 12 emotions. So here is a question for you. Can you put in the chat box one number where how many emotions you think there are available on that myriad, on that spectrum of emotions? How many emotions do you think there are out there that you can reach and you could experience? So someone said 2,500.
Laurent, can you come a little bit closer to the mic? One person was saying that they can't hear you clear enough. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Hopefully this is better.
For me, it's great. Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to try to even raise my voice. So I have 5,000, 3,000 as emotion, 2,500. Anyone else would like to suggest or guess? 50, 200, 13, 12. Perfect. Well, the reality is we have 34,000 emotion that you could experience on that spectrum of many emotions that are available out there. And you only get to experience on average 12 emotions per day. So going back to the theory, if we are aware of the emotion, it means that you are experiencing a feeling. Now it moves from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind. What does that mean? It means that you are able now to objectify the experience. You are able to pause and think to yourself, okay, hang on, I am feeling weak. I'm feeling vulnerable. I'm feeling helpless. Then you can extract this feeling using your conscious mind and examine it and analyze it and question yourself, is that really me? And then you can actually make a choice. You can make a choice whether you want to choose to feel like that or not. And that's how you go beyond your 12 emotion on average. And you start tapping into new emotion, and that's how you break the pattern. So I'm going to give you some small tools here that can actually, be more effective for you to break the pattern. The first tool that I'm going to be sharing with you has actually been introduced by Mel Robbins. This tool is called the 5-second rule. And there is a science behind it. It says that if you count from 5 to 1, meaning backward, you're going to be disconnecting from your kind of limbic system, from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind. So now you are already in your conscious mind. And what we saw earlier, that the difference between emotion and feeling, that feeling is you are in the conscious mind. So now you are able to pause. This tool gets you to pause and think and analyze and then decide, what choice do you want to make? You want to continue feeling helpless and vulnerable or not? The second tool, and this is based on also a webinar that I have done before, and you could scan this barcode using your phone camera to connect to that webinar, is the, I call it the NVA model, non-value added model. This is inspired by the work of Stephen Covey. And it speaks about, this is very important for kind of battling or combating your procrastination. So what it does, basically, you have the task. You got to look at the tasks that you do on a weekly basis. You got to take the average tasks that you do on a weekly basis, and you're going to classify them as what is important and urgent, what is important and non-urgent, what is non-important and urgent, and what is non-important and non-urgent. So I'm going to go through every one of them just to kind of illustrate for you what does it represent. The important and urgent are the tasks that have a deadline. Like the webinar that I have made today is a webinar that had a deadline, so it's important and urgent. The deadlines that you have at your work with projects and everything, and also if there is a crisis that you are dealing with, like a medical emergency that you have to attend. So this is the important and the urgent. The non-important and the urgent is simply your weekly routine, your shopping, your cleaning, any routine work that you do on recurrent basis, basically. Now, the not important and the not urgent, I don't have to explain to you that one, right? This is where you're going to be watching your Netflix and binging on some social media or anything like that. Whereas the non-urgent and important is where your growth is where your evolution is, where your development is, ladies and gentlemen. So having said that, the research have shown that out of your free time per week, on average, the free time that you have per week, you get to spend 80% of that time in the non-urgent, non-important, and only 20% of your time in the non-urgent and important. Whereas the reality is that these should be literally swapped. You want to stop procrastinate. You want to, grow. You want to spend more time in your non-urgent and important and less time in the non-urgent and non-important. Now, how this tool helps you to break the pattern, it gives you a map of how you're spending your week. Where are you spending your week? What are you doing during your week? And this map eventually will enable you to decide. You can stop, connect to your feeling, and understand, where am I spending my week? And then you decide what you want to do, where you actually want to spend your week, where you want to spend it more on the non-urgent, non-important, or you want to spend it more on the non-urgent, important. And the last tool today that I want to share with you to actually break the pattern is journaling. This is a very interesting and a straightforward tool, basically. And there is a lot of research out there on the web that shows the benefit, the health benefit, in fact, the mental health benefit of journaling. Because what journaling does, it declutters your mind. It helps you to take all the noise in your mind, all that mixed up conflict, feeling, everything that you could imagine, and you put it on a piece of paper or a document if you're doing it on a computer or something. And when you do that, that's how you are extracting, you are objectifying your emotion and putting it as a feeling and putting it on a piece of paper, and you are actually examining it. You could ask yourself, is this true? Is this who I am? The process that I follow with journaling is quite interesting, where I always make a kind of a picture of how am I feeling. So I ask myself, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling anxiety, I'm feeling frustration, I'm feeling sadness, I'm feeling loneliness, whatever it is. Or even on the upside, I'm feeling hopeful, I'm feeling, positive, happy, anything. And then you ask yourself, why am I feeling like that? Where is that coming from? Ask yourself, where is that coming from? That's the process that I follow and that I give to my clients and my coachees, basically. So when you ask yourself, where is that coming from? Or, why am I feeling like that? Then you ask yourself, what does that mean about me? So if I'm feeling hopeful or helpless or weak, does that mean that I am a weak person? Does that mean that I am a not important person? And then you ask yourself, is this true? Is this true? Based on my history, based on my life trajectory, is this true? And this is a fantastic tool where you're going to be able to disconnect from that negative emotion that you are experiencing behind that desire or that task that you want to achieve. We're talking about the essence of your procrastination. So here, I want you to hear it from people who have experienced the model that I'm sharing with you today firsthand. What do they think about the method? Did it work for them? And which was the best part for them? And what was the impact on their life, so to speak? So here is the two of my coachees, or the individual that I worked with. Perhaps one of them might be even with us today. I just want you, Nils, to tell me if you can hear the voice, please, once I play the video, okay?
Hi, my name is Phil Myler. I'm an actor, producer, and voice artist, and I am a procrastinator. Sounds like an AA meeting? Well, that's because all of you guys have been there too, right? All of you here have the same problem I have, maybe not as much as I have. But yeah, if you don't control procrastination, it takes over your life and it makes a big mess of everything. And that's what was happening in my life. And then I met Laurent and I was in a session with him. He gave me all those tools, all that notion about eating the elephant one bite at a time, about naming your little devil of procrastination that's making your life into a mess. That whole thing of motion that generates energy, which generates momentum and generates traction, all that works. If you apply it, you can make it work. And I'm still struggling, I know, it's like eating the elephant one bite at a time. But believe me, it works. And it has worked for me. And I think Laurent for that very much. All right.
Hi, my name is Lucia Kim, and I teach English and Portuguese for foreigners. I love what I do, so I consider myself lucky because of that, and also because I was able to attend Laurent's lectures and have a session with him. Right after one of those lectures, a webinar, I realized something had happened because I was able to interact with people, which is something that would have never happened before because I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it. And a proof that his method is effective is that I'm here making this video. And this is something that would have never happened before Laurent because I'm a camera shy. I learned that when we identify the source of our fears and when we are aware of the voices that try to make us stop and give up our dreams, it's much easier to fight against them and to handle the situation in a much easier and comfortable way. So I thank Laurent a lot for this opportunity and for all his help that definitely helped me a lot. Thank you, Laurent. Bye.
Hi,
So you may be asking yourself, what qualifies me to speak about fear and procrastination? So I'm going to be sharing with you my experience with fear and procrastination. I was born in a war-ridden country where at the younger age, if I'm going to be crossing the borders of my city from one side to another side, I have to walk between landmines, obviously. Growing up, I had this value in me that I wanted to become an international person, but it wasn't very simple for me to do that. And I had to deal with a lot of uncertainty for me to leave my country. So I moved to Australia and I studied over there and I fell in love with the country and I wanted to make that my home country, my new home country. And it wasn't possible at that time. So I had to get resourceful and I dealt with a lot of uncertainty, obviously, but eventually I got resourceful and I ended up studying to become a cook, not knowing whether this is going to work or not. So it's a risk, obviously, that I have taken. And eventually I ended up staying in the country and Australia became my new home. And I worked my way up through my career ladder and until I got a job with Toyota. And I worked with them for several years. And in that job, I started getting revisited by this desire to become an international person. So I tried within the country, that was not feasible. So I had to do it on my own, but there was too much risk for me to take and too much competitive interest for me to lose, basically, because I had a secure job with a lot of perks, good reputation. Everything was functioning perfectly in my life. So I stayed in that space for several years, in fact, until the pain of not becoming an international person became so strong, so much so that I had to take that leap of faith. So I took that leap of faith and I started working for Louis Vuitton in Dubai, my first job, with the intention to become an international person, not knowing whether I'm gonna be actually adapting to the new industry, because I went from automotive to fashion luxury, and not knowing whether I'm going to be adapting to the new country from Australia to United Arab Emirates. So eventually I become an international person. They say, careful what you wish for. I end up living in 5 countries, 3 with Louis Vuitton. And my last assignment was, as Niels mentioned, as the CFO of South America. Now, staying in that space, in that glamorous, secure, safe place would be insane for someone to step out of that and start something else. But I had been visited by this desire, this longing to become an entrepreneur, to serve others at mass level, so to speak, not so much directly my team or the company or the people that I'm dealing with. So I really wanted to become an entrepreneur, and I stayed in my space for many years until eventually the pain of not doing that became so much so that I had to take that leap of faith again. And I stepped out to where I am right now, a mentor, coach, and a advisor, as an entrepreneur, having my own firm, basically. So this is my experience, where you can see multiple phases in my life. We had to deal with procrastination. I stayed in that space. I felt the pain. I felt the conflict. And eventually I took that leap of faith as a result of pain. But what I'm trying to do for you here with everyone is creating that model that will get you to avoid to experience that pain by strengthening that fearlessness muscle, by working on a actual foundation that will enable you to change or to attain a desire that you want without having to experience so much pain and conflict. So the next thing is, we spoke about how to break the pattern. We spoke about how to clarify, how to break the pattern. Now we're going to talk about the cost of inaction. The cost of inaction. So if you remember the first flow that I have shared with you, where behind every desire or task that you are procrastinating on, there was a negative emotion. And I said at some point that behind that negative emotion, you want to attribute a kind of a offsetting emotion. So when you procrastinate, you get a positive relief. Now you're going to be thinking about the cost of inaction. But before we do that, I'm going to be running another poll here, ladies and gentlemen. If I can get you please to participate. And this poll is simple. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you rate your level of anxiety? Where 10 is high and 1 is like you almost don't have any anxiety. So if I can get everyone to participate, please, I will give you 40 seconds to a minute. I would appreciate your participation, actually, because that shows, you know, what you think, what everyone think in this circle about think and feel about whether any opinion that we are discussing over the poll. So I appreciate that everyone is participating already, and a lot of people are actually jumping on and contributing to the poll. So I'll give you a few more seconds.
Hi, Laurent. Can you check if there's people waiting in the waiting room? Thanks a lot. Sorry for laughing.
Yeah, no, I don't have anyone, because okay. I get a message every time someone comes in. No problem. Okay, so I'm going to be, thank you everyone for contributing in the poll. I'm going to share the results. We have a kind of a unanimous, kind of a differentiating decision. Some people have high level of anxiety in this circle, and other people are kind of literally in the middle. Well, the research have shown that even with a low level of anxiety, people have 30% higher chance of mortality, even if you have low level of anxiety. So I spoke earlier about the cost of inaction. The cost of inaction is the cost of not doing any action. So here is a question that I ask you. If you want to jot that down, or if you want to think about it, ponder on it, I will leave it for a few seconds, where what is the cost of not doing anything? So you have that task, you have that desire, that goal that you want to achieve, and you have been procrastinating about. What would be the cost of not doing anything 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 3 years from now? This is a very important step. All the people that I work with, we spend a long time going deeper on the cost of inaction. Why? Because what we said earlier, you have the task, negative emotion, then you procrastinate because you have a negative emotion. Now, what we are doing against that procrastination, you are attributing, against that positive relief of procrastination, you are attributing a negative emotion. So you are hacking into your brain, you are reframing your brain. So when you go and you ruminate on what could happen to me, if you are feeling conflict right now in your life, that you are procrastinating on something, or you are afraid of or you don't want to cross the line of fear, imagine what would happen 6 months from now if you don't do nothing on your emotional side, on your physical side, on your financial side. Depends on what you are dealing with. 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 3 years from now, how would you feel? So when in this space of cost of inaction, the notion that you need to be aware of is the negative belief system. There is a lot of talk out there about negative beliefs. What's a negative belief system? A negative belief, ladies and gentlemen, is the current present belief about something negative that happened to you in the past. So if in the past you have had an experience where someone told you you're not good enough, or you felt as a result of a negative experience that you are not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not important, or you're an imposter, this is a belief that everyone get to carry with them throughout their life. And where is the problem? The problem is when you move forward in the future, looking at your rear view mirror, thinking that this is who I am not worthy of success, or not worthy of relationship, whatever is the case that you are experiencing. So you don't want to be moving forward in your life looking at your rear view mirror, otherwise you're going to end up crashing. I firsthand, I can write a book. In fact, I wrote an article, a blog post about my experience with one of my negative belief systems, and I want to share with you the story behind it to illustrate. I struggled a lot throughout my career with the imposter syndrome. If someone can relate to that, you can raise your hand. Where did that started? I remember well, when did it started? In fact, it was almost like the afternoon of the second day of the month when I was working for Toyota in Sydney. And I was supposed to be participating in a meeting that would incorporate the finance teams within 3 cities. So it's a conference call. It will be incorporating Sydney, Melbourne, and Nagoya, where is the head office. And there was about 120 people that get involved in this meeting. And it happened on the second day of each month. So my job during that meeting, that specific one, to explain some difference in the stock that I didn't know what's the source of that difference, because I didn't have enough time to analyze. It was quite complex to understand where that difference was coming from. So I did the big mistake by deciding to show up to the meeting and try to come up with something just so I can keep face, just so I can keep, my dignity. So I showed up to the meeting not knowing where is the variance. And obviously you're dealing with a bunch of professionals that they know what they are talking about. And I started explaining the variance, and obviously I wasn't giving clear explanation. And the more I was vague with my explanation, the more I was getting questioned and challenged and even grilled by all the participants in that meeting. Until eventually, even people that normally do not even contribute, they got so excited and they started contributing and asking me questions that I could not answer. So my turn to explain and Sydney turn to explain any kind of variances have stopped, and they moved to Melbourne to start talking. And I sat back on my chair furious and frustrated, obviously, of whatever just happened to me. And unconsciously, I started cursing the people, especially the one who have decided to challenge me, and they never challenged anyone, until I realized that the microphone was not off. Everyone in that meeting, all 120 of them in 3 cities, have heard me cursing, have heard me at my worst. So imagine yourself in this situation. What would you do? I have stepped out of my chair and I decided to stand up and go for a walk. And this incident has never been brought up again. But I know in the back of everyone's mind that they have this judgment. At least my subconscious was telling me that on the back of everyone's mind, they had this judgment that I am an imposter, I am fake. And I carried this imposter syndrome throughout most of my career, because I graduated as a business degree. I didn't graduate as an accountant, but I specialized myself in FP&A, financial planning and analysis, and I became quite good at it, along with multiple corporate skills. And this is what led me to become a leader as a CFO. But I had people that were highly technically oriented accountants working for me that can detect all the details that I didn't know. But the moment someone talked to me about something that it was not clear for me, automatically I go into this guilt mode, this mode of feeling like an imposter. So I want you to imagine yourself having this experience with another type of negative feeling or negative belief system. So to start talking about the next stages of the model, we spoke about unpacking the fear, breaking the pattern, and the cost of inaction. Now we're gonna be talking about the value add. What do I mean by the value add? Now behind that negative emotion, behind the task or the desire that you wanna achieve, you want to add a positive experience, which is what would be the value add. And we're gonna talk about that. What is the process? How could you rework the process of that desire, of that task, of the thing that you want to attain, and what actions can you take? And that's how you eventually get to progress. That's how you go from stasis to become a better version of yourself. And that's how you go into that upward spiral mode. So let's start with the first step of value add. Here is a question that I want you to jot down. What might be the benefit of an attempt or even a partial success in whatever task, desire, or a step that you want to take, but that you have been procrastinating about? What could be the benefits if you actually succeed in achieving that task or that desire? And I gave an example about my experience here with becoming an entrepreneur. And for each point, I've rated them from 1 to 10, where 10 is the highest and 1 is the lowest. And here, this is another process that I get to spend a lot with my clients or with my coaches or the people that I work with, because you need to really go deeper and ingrain that thought, that idea of what would be the benefit of actually making this action, even if it's a partial success, in your mind, in your brain, to offset that negative emotion. So when you think about that task, you don't only think about the negative emotion, you would also think about the value add, and that's the point behind it. So just think about it for a few seconds. What could be the benefit of an attempt or partial success? So the next step is to actually break down the process that you are dealing with, or the task that you are dealing with. So they say, similar to what Phil, one of the people that I've worked with, said, you cannot eat an elephant in one bite. You have to eat it one bite at a time. One of the problems with procrastination, what does our brain do, and that's also with fear, when you have a desire or something that you're going to be dealing with or something that you want to achieve, fear masks your mind and you only see this big monster, this big cloud, this big elephant that you are dealing with. But the job that you need to do is to break down this task into small, doable, achievable steps. Small steps that you can actually assign a deadline, timeline behind every single one of these steps. So start with what would be the first step that I have to do. Start with low-hanging fruits. Start with things that are really kind of achievable. Low-hanging fruits. If I need to send an email first, if I need to contact XYZ, if I need to go and create a profile, small step. And when you do that first small step, you are making a momentum. You are making a movement. The next thing is start making the action. So connecting with the better version of you. Extremely important, and something that I also spend a lot of time. In each one of you, you have that negative voice in your head that we mentioned earlier, the saboteur, that tells you you're not good enough, you're not important, and all of that. But on the other hand, you have also a positive voice. And let me give you an example. How could you connect to that positive voice? So can I ask everyone, please, for a few seconds to close your eyes? Just close your eyes for a few seconds and imagine yourself going back in time at a point in your life where you were so proud of yourself over something that you have done. You are so proud, so much so that when you think about this moment where you were proud of yourself, it gives you the goosebumps. It automatically puts a smile on your face. See, what you saw then, hear what you heard then, feel what you felt then. And think about a specific moment. Could be that promotion that you have got. Could be that proposal that you have done and someone accepted. It could be anything, but it could be a game that you were playing and you won. So the time when you won, actually. And in that time, you had that positive voice in your head telling you something positive about you. You can make it. You work hard, you will get the result. You are important. You are, amazing. You are beautiful. That specific moment. Think about that voice and try to personify that voice. Try to isolate it, give it a shape, give it a color. And that's how you are able to connect with that voice. So the work that I do is to constantly encourage people to connect to that voice. You can open your eyes now if you haven't already. So get into a passionate state to create momentum. The formula that I always talk about. Movement equal energy. Energy equal momentum. Momentum equal traction. We're talking about basic physics. So if you are in stasis in your comfortable place and you are thinking about something and you have not physically done any action for you to move forward, send an email, call someone, if you are procrastinating about working out, sign up, go to the gym, physically do something, an action. And you need to get into that passionate state the same way I was able to connect you to that part of you that is at your best, that excellent part of you. I call it the commander voice or the captain voice, because it's the captain of your ship, basically. When you connect to that, you can feel the energy running in your body. When you get to that stage, ladies and gentlemen, this is when you have to start making massive action. You need to capture that moment. You need to capture that moment. It's not one step, it's all of these steps that needs to be done. And then I talk about the 2 millimeter theory. What do I mean by that? So I'm gonna be sharing with you here the whiteboard to actually illustrate what do I mean by this 2 millimeter theory. So this is who you are. Trying to get the pen to activate. Just bear with me, sorry. Technical issues. So I'm gonna be explaining to you now that this is basically who you are. And right, excuse my drawing. And this is where you live. This is your comfortable place. This is your comfort zone. Okay? And then you have a desire or something that you want to achieve that is actually residing in here. And the 2 millimeter theory is based on the cognitive behavioral therapy, which states that if you want to be confronting a fear, if you want to be getting comfortable with the fear, you need to take small incremental steps outside of your comfort zone in order for you to increase your comfort zone. So for you to do that, you need to start making small steps, small steps, small steps, small steps, and eventually you will grow a new comfort zone. So now this is no longer your comfort zone, this is your comfort zone. Then you do the same thing again. You don't stop. You make small steps, small steps, small steps, small steps, daily basis, small steps out of your comfort zone. And eventually, you know, you will grow a comfort zone that is enough to actually cover this that you are, the desire that you are attaining, you're trying to attain. And that's how you grow your comfort zone. And that's how you become a better version of you, because the version of you that was here is no longer here. This is the space where your muscles of fearlessness can stretch to. And this is extremely important. And that's the work that needs to really be done for each one of you to step out of your comfort zone on daily basis, small incremental step, in order for you to reach your desired comfort zone, to actually attain that desire, that task that you have been procrastinating about. So eventually, going back to that cycle of the procrastination, we spoke about all these steps, and this is the model that I work with. There are 2 pillars that are quite important, and these pillars makes up the foundation that's going to enable you to grow your better version of yourself. And these pillars, I speak about them all the time, which is discipline and community. So what's the benefit of discipline? Obviously, discipline makes you more assertive, especially when it comes to decision making. Discipline gets you to become more focused. You can get to be more in the flow. And then when you are focused, you are able to focus more on the target that you want to achieve. It gets you to become more resourceful, and you become emotionally stable. And then you would have even clarity in your mind that this is what I need to do, because you are focused, you know what's going to happen, you know the task that you are dealing with, and you're no longer going to be having this cloud in your mind, which is that big task that you want to achieve. And it gets you to raise your standards. Super important point, raising your standards. Small example. If you want to go to the gym, and in your mind, in your subconscious, it's telling you, I should go to the gym. I should. But when you turn the I should to I must go to the gym. This is my new standard. This defines me. This defines who I am. Then there is no coming back. As long as this is your desire, as long as this is what you want. If going to the gym is your desire. And obviously when you do these tasks, these disciplinary tasks, you need to reward yourself. You need to give yourself a pat on the back, because chances are no one else is going to do that. One tool that I use for discipline is the 30-day challenge. If you just go on Google and you type in 30-day challenge, you will find millions of people out there that are talking and giving ideas about 30-day challenge. Every second month, I do a 30-day challenge just to give myself a break. So they say it takes 21 days for you to grow a habit. I stretch it to 30 days, and that's the theory behind it, basically. But with these small habits, and it could be not only something that you're going to be adding to you, it could be something that you want to let go. You don't want to be looking at social media 1 hour before you go to sleep, or 2 hours, or whatever it is. In fact, one of my clients, I actually did that challenge with her. The other thing is the community. So needless to say that you are the average of the 5 closest people that are to you. You are the average of the 5 closest people that are to you. Their habits, their character, their personality traits, their ambition. So the more you surround yourself with quality people, I call them OQP, only quality people, the more you're going to be able to have a network. Here we are also speaking about science. We're talking about mirror neurons, because mirror neurons theory states that you get to copy the people that their traits that you have around you. Small example, when someone starts yawning next to you, eventually you're going to start yawning as well. This is based on mirror neurons. So you want to surround yourself with the right quality of people around you that can get and understand what you are trying to do. And they can support you and guide you along that path. And here I'm going to be running the last poll, which is one of the same polls that I have run before. And if I get you to please contribute, I want to ask you again, what is your level of choice? Knowing what you have learned today, knowing all these aspects about your brain, 1 is you have no choice, and 10, you have all the choice that you could take in the world. You can take control of your mind. You can take control of what's happening in your life. You could plan it. You can identify it. You can dissociate yourself from negative emotion. You can associate yourself with positive emotion. You have control. What's the choice? What's the choice? I'm going to give you a few more seconds. If I get people to actually participate more, I would really appreciate it, so we can have really a strong, one unanimous voice. This is the last poll, so let's do it. Okay, few more seconds. And all right, so I'm going to be sharing the results. We are still at 7, similar to before, but before we had a lot of concentration between 4 and 6, whereas now most of the concentration is between 9 and 10 and 7. So congratulations for anyone, if anyone actually changed their voting on their choice. So last but not least, I want to share with you a kind of a snapshot, a tool set as do's and don'ts that you could take a picture of that or whatever you want to do to actually use it as a checklist for what can you do and what you shouldn't do when it comes to dealing with procrastination and fear. So you want to connect with the better version of yourself? we spoke about that moment of excellence, that voice in your head, that positive voice. You want to identify the task that you are likely to put off, to postpone, and you want to break it down. You want to break it down into small processes and try to attack the low-hanging fruits. You want to make 2mm steps. You want to make that first step that is going to create the energy, that will create the momentum and traction, and get into that passionate state when you do that step. And don't forget to reward yourself. Now, what you don't want to do is you do not want to call yourself a procrastinator. Your brain cannot tell the difference, whether this is true or not. If you call yourself, this is strictly, we are speaking about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And you want to tackle the complex task. You don't want to do that on your own. You want the support of the community that we spoke about. And don't try to finish one project in one sitting because you're going to be, having a burnout or overwhelming yourself. And then you would associate a negative emotion behind this actual task that you have been procrastinating about. And don't overcommit your schedule. Otherwise, you will have a burnout. So with that, I would like to call you for a challenge. Think about 5 fearful action, 5 2mm fearful steps that you could take right now that would get you out of your comfortable place. And to make it actually work, go ahead and commit to these 5 fearful steps to someone that you know, from a coaching standpoint, someone who can hold you accountable, and ask him or her tell him and her or her when you're going to be achieving that, when you're going to be doing that. And with that, I want to share with you a board that I saw on the streets in Sydney, and it kind of got me to reflect because it's in line with what we are talking about, dealing with procrastination, dealing with fear. And it came very randomly, so I took a picture of that and I wanted to share it with everyone. And last but not least, obviously, I said that before, but this is the last thing, is I just want to ask you to connect with me. I would like to thank you everyone for your time, for your investment in time and energy, and for your curiosity. Connect with me on the social media channels. I get to put a lot of content out there, and you can scan these barcodes using your phone camera, or use that username, which I use it for all the social medias. And I'm gonna give an offer today for the participants of this webinar. I am constantly organizing small workshops for a very small amount of people, no more than 5, up to 5, that actually where I work on dealing with fear and procrastination. So if anyone is interested to participate in that, I'm giving a 50% promotional offer only for that session. You will qualify to that if you send me an email and if you put in the subject, overcome fear and procrastination. So I would invite you to do that if that is something that would interest you. And I spoke about this fear and procrastination in one of my blogs. So if you would like to scan that barcode, it will take you to that blog and you will be able to read further. And everything that I shared today is included also in that blog. I will be also sharing the recording of this video on my social media channels. So if you connect with me, you'll be able to have access to this video that we had today. Other than that, I will pass it on maybe to Nils. Anyone have any questions, Q&As, any contribution?
Hi, Lauren. First of all, thank you very much for the presentation. I got goosebumps, especially those what is the word? The moments that you shared earlier, which are obviously very delicate moments that nobody normally wants to share because they are so humiliating and very sensitive and you know, so first of all, hats off for that you share with us how sensitive you are and all the lessons that you learned from it and putting it in such a great format. I personally very much appreciate it. I still get goosebumps just by talking about it, thinking about it. So we have some questions. You're very welcome. So you have some questions coming up. I have to scroll back. Shannon Giri was asking if you could show the QR code for the NVA model once more. She was in that.
Sure, I can do that. Otherwise, she could find it on the YouTube channel that I have. But let me try to do that quickly.
Sure. I think it was one of the first slides that you showed, maybe the second or the third one.
Sure.
Then,
meanwhile,
so Sorelli Calixto, probably from Latin country, I'm guessing, maybe from the Dominican Republic or Chile, I don't know, for Peru. She was asking, how do I increase my comfort zone with the actions? So that was the part where you described the mini steps, right?
Yes, this is the QR code. So I'll give her a few seconds, and then I'm gonna go back to the. Sorry, I'll come back to that question. So this is the QR code. So I'll give a few seconds because I'm gonna come back to the main last page so people can connect to my social media channel.
So okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I hope you got the QR code. Let's move on.
Yes, tell me. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
Go ahead. What was the question that was asked again?
So,
if you can repeat it, please.
Sorely Calixto, she was asking how to increase my comfort zone with the actions. So she was referring to the mini steps. You had the diagram that we are drawing with the mini steps and the 2 circles, the pink one and the blue one, I think it was. And so she was going back to that.
Yes. So just to kind of reinstate again to that question, based on, it's not only coming from my end, it's also coming from my end, but it's also obviously based on cognitive behavioral therapy. You can look that term up and to learn more about it, or you can connect with me. So basically, what they do is they would encourage people. It's a research that was done, and they were basing it on people who have traumatic experience, people who have phobias, for example, of some people who have phobia from getting out of their home. So if they have phobia from getting out of their home, they take the first step by opening the door and stay in front of the door. Okay. The next step is by actually opening the door and stand outside of the door. And, you know, small steps every single day, small steps, small steps, small steps. So in my case, for example, I always do things that get me to get out of my comfort zone. Give you a small example. It might be silly, but it actually gets me out of my comfort zone. Every day when I'm having my shower, at the end of that shower, I put the cold shower on, the cold water on, just to get me out of my comfort zone. But it also has some physical benefits to that. So this is a small example that you can get yourself out of your comfort zone. In some of the clients that I work with, for example, they get to switch off their phone 1 hour before they sleep, or they put it on airplane mode 1 hour before they sleep, and 30 minutes or 1 hour when they wake up. These are steps that get you to go against your will, and you are stretching yourself, you are stretching your comfort zone, and you'll be surprised how much you are starting to grow your discipline. You grow your that mental toughness, where you are able to deal with your fearlessness muscle. Any more questions?
Great. Yes. The next question is from Amanda. She had a question. First of all, like many others, she said, "Thank you for the presentation." She has a question regarding the discipline. And she said, "What advice would you give to people who can make the plan and have the task broken down, make a start, but have trouble maintaining the momentum to actually complete the small steps to achieve the larger goal. So she's saying like, okay, so here it is. You have identified what you want to do, and you're planning on doing it, but you're actually lacking executing it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
If I summarize that hopefully correctly, yeah. So when you have trouble maintaining the momentum, right, you lose motivation, or you get distracted, or this kind of stuff. So what can you do? Which steps can you take that will help you to make sure that you actually follow up on these goals that you set yourself, and that you maintain the discipline level in order to get to where you want to go, really, where you need to.
So Amanda, super interesting question, and it actually summarizes everything that we are talking about. So perhaps this question is going to be, answering a lot of other people's doubts. So here's the thing: it's not a one-stop shop. It's not a one step that you got to do. You got to do all the steps that I have been talking about. You need to build your discipline. You need to have the right community that would encourage you, because what you are doing, you are hacking into your brain. You are using mirror neurons to copy the community that you have around you. You are creating a discipline to strengthen that resilience muscle inside of you. You are working on what's the cost of inaction in order for you to introduce a negative emotion behind procrastination. You are working on the value add in order for you to introduce a positive emotion behind the negative emotion behind procrastination. You are going into the negative emotion. So all of these things all together, they're going to start causing some avalanche of conflicted emotion inside of you that will start creating that energy. If you commit yourself, you are revved up right now after this presentation or this webinar, and you go and you make the plan and you take the first test, but you haven't worked on your fear, you haven't worked on your what's the value add, you haven't connected with the right people around you, all of these other things, one alone is not going to help you to deal with this problem. It's a model, it's a cycle that you have to go through the whole thing. And this I can guarantee you. But you are right now in a fantastic space because you had the curiosity. You had the curiosity. There's something inside of you that is causing pain when it comes to, why am I not achieving this task that I've been procrastinating about? Why this is not happening? So follow your bliss, follow your curiosity. Start learning how to go and unpack all these things deeper in order for you to actually get to that momentum. And yes, the first action creates that energy, that creates momentum, that creates traction. Hopefully that answered the questions. Any other questions out there?
Yes, there are much more. So Wendy was asking, no, hang on. It was Alexander, sorry. So Alexander was asking, what do you mean with reward yourself? How is that to understand?
Yeah, rewarding yourself here is actually when you are achieving a task. There was a study that was done. It's not in my head the name of the neurologist who actually did that study, but the study was done where they asked people to three groups of people. They ask each group to create from a Lego, create a robot. So they gave them instruction, they gave them a piece of Lego, and they said, go and create a robot. So the first group who created the robot, they actually brought that robot, the Lego robot, to the panel who are doing the judgment. And the panel actually looked at this robot and they gave them a fantastic feedback about this robot. And on top of that, they gave them $20. And the next group of people, the second group of people, they gave them a fantastic feedback and they reward them with great congratulations and kind of a positive reinforcement. the third group, when they got the robot and they shared it with the panel looked at the robot, they didn't say a word, and they trashed it in the bin. So what happened, and they asked them to do, and they asked these three groups of people to do that several times, over several times. Eventually, the quality of actually the products, the Lego, how they were actually put together, start deteriorating. Guess for who? For the group that was not getting any rewards. So when you are giving yourself this positive reinforcement, you are also introducing that it's all brain hacking at the end of the day, because you're saying, I had a task, it gives me negative emotion, I used to procrastinate and I used to get reward. Now you are going to the task, and after you have introduced a positive emotion against a negative emotion, everything that we spoke about, but now you are doing what used to be perceived as a difficult task, but you are rewarding yourself for that task. So there is a positive intervention in your mind, in your subconscious. Your mind, it's actually a machine. Really, like you think and you act and all of that, but your subconscious mind, sorry, to be super more clear, your subconscious mind is actually a machine. Whatever you feed into that machine, it actually acts on it. So hopefully that clarifies. Any other questions, Neil?
Great. That's a really good example. The next one was Wendy, and then she was asking, could you explain further what you meant by getting into a passionate state? And I can add to this as well, but go ahead.
No worries. It's about, when you thought about this moment of when you were, so Wendy, are you there? Can you raise your hand or unmute yourself?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being part of this webinar to start with. I'm gonna do something very quickly with you. I'm gonna demonstrate that as an example with you. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
I cannot see you. I don't know where you are, but that's okay. That's not the issue. I'm gonna ask you to stand up if you don't mind, and close your eyes. Just let me know when you did that.
Okay.
Okay. So now that you stood up and you closed your eyes, I want you to go back to the same exercise that I've done before, which thinking about a time in your life when you felt proud of yourself. A time in your life when you were so proud of yourself that when you think about that moment, it gives you the goosebumps. And as you think about that, imagine that moment. Imagine that you now are in that moment, in your mind's eye, seeing what you're seeing, hearing what you're hearing, feeling what you felt, and listening to that positive voice in your head, whatever it was telling you at that point, and feel the energy of that moment entering your body right now. Feel your body that is getting warmer. Feel the goosebumps. Feel all the intensity that you had. It could be a beautiful feeling. It could be something romantic, whatever that is. Get that emotion and feeling into that moment right now.
Look at my goosebumps right there.
So that's what I mean by getting into a passionate state. Now, in this state that you are right now, this is the state that you want to capture. This is the state that you want to start making the first action. And your should become a must. Your should become a must, Wendy.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that clarifies.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yes, I will think about it. Yeah, I'll try.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I add, Lauren, can I add to this something?
Sure.
So I would like to go back 6 years when I did my first activity in internations. And it was at the beginning of May. There was the Golden Week in Japan, which is like a week-long holiday. And it's very famous for that. It's usually the first really summer-like weather each year in Japan. And I was doing an activity. I was doing the first outdoor hiking activity. and it was around 10 people. It was a really great activity. And after the activity, I came home and everything was perfect. The people were nice, the weather was nice. And I came back on that Saturday evening, and Sunday I was sitting on my sofa and I still felt the energy, and I still feel this energy, like when I think back to that moment, like you describe it. And I was sitting on the sofa on the Sunday. I was like, wow, what is this energy? Where's this coming from? This is so amazing. And this is what keeps me going, doing activities and events at Internations. That's I wanted to share. And let's continue with the next question. So that would be Shirley Calixto. I hope I pronounced this correctly. How to identify what makes us feel passionate about something? So like basically, how do you find your passion? That is the question, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of work that was done around that. One model that I follow is actually a Japanese term. I'm going to be running a webinar, in fact, about that topic. It's called Ikigai. Ikigai means reason for being in Japanese, and anyone who's Japanese out there, they can correct me. So with that model, as just an example, with that model, you are able to kind of identify the crossover or the intersection between your passion, between your mission, between your vocation, and between your profession, so to speak. But to be more practical and to give you a very small tool right now, and this tool helps you also to identify your values, because you need to identify your values. This is part of the fundamental work that I do with my clients and with my coaches, so to speak. So because your values is the blueprint of what makes you fulfilled, what makes you feel fulfilled. So a question that you could ask yourself, and you can write that down, is if I don't have, I mean, if I have all the money in the world and all the time in the world and all the resources in the world, what are the first 30 things I would do? You would not stop writing until you get to 30 points that you would do. What would you do in your life? What would you do in your life? This is also one of the first questions that I ask for my coaches, where I get to pick up on patterns that they have, that they can actually see that they have this value in them, they have this desire, they have this passion, but because of the programming that you have today in your world, which is the external factors, economy, money, finances, commitment, kids, this, that, whatever, you get to completely conceal it and dissociate yourself from it. But this kind of question, have a free mind when it comes to this question. Don't put any limitation. This is your dream answer. This is the kind of exercise that you could do, and there are many others where it can get you to pick up on your passion. Hope that this clarifies the question to you. Any other question do we have?
Yeah, hi, Lauren. This is the last one I see in the chat. This is from Mary. She's asking, she's basically mentioning, she's adding, knowing your values and have an accountability buddy is also a great way to help you taking baby steps. So reward yourself by saying thank you for actually taking that one step. Treat yourself with your favorite dish once to accomplish one thing. Be proud of self for actually doing one action.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you said it and you summed it all, Mary. Thank you so much for this comment. I actually would like to ask every one of you who is still in this webinar, just to put one word that describes your experience with this webinar, please. Just put one word in the chat box that describes your experience of this webinar, if you don't mind. If I can get everyone to do that, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Niels.
Okay, so
okay.
if you still want to ask questions for Laurent, I don't see any more questions in the chat, but maybe I overlooked something, or you want to ask something in private or something, then of course you can ask, you can contact Laurent via the channels that you see on the screen. But in case you still haven't asked, but you would like to ask now, you can just raise your hand in the participants list or unmute yourself and just go ahead. I see Alexander Herring raised the hand. So Alexander, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, actually, like, yeah, first of all, thanks for the great presentation.
Pleasure.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask, well, I think like Niels already read it, like, yeah, what is meant with reward yourself? Because like, if I think about like, is it like a instant reward? Like I do something and reward myself, or do I do something and do it for a certain amount of time and then reward myself?
Yeah, so it has to be a, what they call, I already spoke about that. I'm not gonna go into details, but just to kind of quickly resume what I said, you gotta do the task and then reward yourself. And once you reward yourself, you would be conscious that I am rewarding myself right now because I have done this task. Because if you are on your subconscious, it would not be kind of you would not be rewriting your subconscious. When you are conscious of what you are doing, you are rewriting your subconscious. And at the end of the day, I normally do it in the beginning of the day. When you are journaling, or if you are journaling, you get to mention that in your journaling and try to dig deeper about what happened in and around this experience, what emotion, what feeling, and that's how you can rewrite the connection, the synapses connection to the two neurons that was telling you something negative, and now you're turning into something positive. Hope that this clarifies. And there is something that is in science, they speak about delay gratification. Have you heard of the marshmallow experience?
No.
So the marshmallow experience, just to quickly illustrate to everyone, it's an actual experience. You can look it up online, where they've done a study where they collected a number of children between 5 to 7 years old, if even not younger. And they set them in a class, and they told them, they put for every single one of them on a plate in front of them, a piece of marshmallow. And they said that we're gonna go for 15 minutes and we're gonna come back. If you don't eat that marshmallow, then we're gonna give you another marshmallow and you're gonna end up having 2 marshmallows. But if you eat that marshmallow, you will not get another marshmallow. And it's so funny when you watch the video of that experiment, you can see it on the web, the marshmallow experiment. You will see small kids, you know, like they are walking around this marshmallow. Some of them are really kind of itching and they are feeling that they are killing themselves. They want to eat the marshmallow just to wait for that 15 minutes. And some of them have eaten the marshmallow and enjoyed doing it, and other people didn't eat it. But this study actually extended to monitor these kids until they grow older. So it's a long-term study. And eventually they saw that the people who have delayed their gratification, they were able to become a lot more disciplined and successful and resilient and building grit in their life. And this is how you could use the rewards to not immediately reward yourself. Like imagine you want to be writing a letter or writing an article, and you say to yourself, you say to your brain, hey brain, if I want to write the letter, I will actually go ahead and reward myself with a piece of cake. But if you feel like you are needing sugar as you are writing the letter or writing something, and you start eating that piece of sugar, whatever that is, this is not helping you to delay the gratification. So you want to finish that, complete that, as hard as it is for your brain to do that. But go ahead and wait and don't eat this piece of cake until you finish this task that you are achieving. And then you can have it and be conscious as you are having it. Don't just have it and watch a TV or something, because you won't be conscious. You would not enjoy it as much. You would not enjoy it as much. Hope that this clarifies this for you, Alexander.
Okay, yeah.
No worries. So Niels, can we wrap it up? And if there is more queries, people can connect with me on social media. And I'm also going to be posting this video online, so people can actually on my social network, they could see the whole replay, the whole thing.
Okay. So let me just say thank you to everybody who's tuning in today, from Brazil, from Peru, from the Dominican Republic, Chile, Madrid, California, Ohio, Singapore, and of course Japan, and many, many more. So just very much appreciate big time that you guys joined us today. And please stay in touch, follow up, and hopefully join us for another session next time. Thank you very much. And you have a wonderful day wherever you are.
Thank you so much, everyone. And congratulations once more for your curiosity, for following this calling inside of you. And I hope that this session showed up to your expectation and beyond. That was my intention, at least.
Definitely.
Thank you, everyone.
For me, definitely, yeah. Thank you very much. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.